Hey there everyone, and in this video I'm going to give some tips and tricks regarding League's latest game mode, Nexus Blitz. Tip number 1. Many runes have been tweaked so that they are very powerful in this game mode, even though you might suppose they are going to perform badly. For example, Gathering Storm is a wonderful rune in Nexus Blitz, as it reliably gives you stats throughout the game and you are sacrificing just a few minutes where you do not have free stats from the rune instead of the regular 10 on Summoner's Rift. And while those 10 minutes on the Rift are sort of enough to decide the outcome of the laning phase, the vastly shortened delay on Nexus Blitz is very unlikely to destroy your early game or stop you from snowballing. Other examples of mid to late game runes that are really good on Nexus Blitz include Overgrowth, Grasp of the Undying and Conditioning. Rod of Ages and Tear are also replaced with their quick charge versions, so you can go for them on many AP champions. Tip number 2. I am going to make a comparison to Summoner's Rift again, because this is the most played map. On Summoner's Rift, when you push your lane you become very vulnerable to enemy ganks, which is a very high price for being able to zone your opponent under their tower. On Nexus Blitz, pushing is of course still exposing you to ganks, but pushing mid lane in particular is also very rewarding. If you have a pushed mid lane, you have not only strong blue buff control, but also protect bot lane from ganks. There are two ways of ganking bot lane in Nexus Blitz, either gank from the lane itself or come from the mid lane brush. But if your mid lane is pushed, it is very hard for the enemy jungler to reach bot lane unnoticed. On the other side, your own jungler and your mid laner can very quickly rotate to bot lane and crush the enemy who is there. Tip number 3. This is something that you will probably notice if you play the game mode a few times, but it is unusual, so I am going to mention it. Most likely as a method to prevent champion select hostages and no smite jungle misclicks, if you are assigned as a jungler, you have smite as one of your summoner spells locked. You cannot change it for anything else, although you can still set it to either D or F or whatever your summoner spell hotkeys are. This way, once you are assigned as a jungler, you cannot forget to take smite. Tip number 4. If the push the card event occurs and your team is not ready to fight, do not start the panic all in. The enemy needs to be in range of the card circle in order to push it, so if you group around your turret you can defend the card for a long amount of time before the enemy manages to push it. Pushing a card to its destination without getting turret aggro is very difficult, and you can make it even harder for your enemies if you wave clear faster than them. Of course, if your team is very far behind, this is not the type of an event that lets you have a comeback, and the enemy will just manifest under your turret while one-shotting you. Tip number 5. Cramming as many of the new items as possible into a build will very often result in the core of the build getting disrupted and the build becoming overall weaker. So if you are willing to try out those new / returning items, I recommend to try them out one by one in suitable builds before doing combinations with them. For example, you're playing Darius and you see a couple of nice new items that might definitely work. You do the math and you're 100% sure that they work, and then you realize you swapped your Spirit Visage for a Force of Nature that not only doesn't have the healing passive Darius needs, but also does not even give health. This is what you want to avoid. But if you are versus a team with 3 APs, 1 support and a feeding AD, then you can just get it in place of, let's say, Deadman's Blade, and now you got a proper build. Same applies for Spear of Shajin and Atma's Reckoning. I recommend trying them out one by one, then in a combination, and after that decide which of the 3 options suits your playstyle best. Tip number 6. If you ever get into trouble inside the jungle, instead of just running in the opposite direction of your enemy, try to reach your jungle turret. If possible, you can even flash or dash depending on what you're playing, behind the wall for ultimate safety. This indestructible turret will never betray you if you rely on it to help you defend yourself. Tip number 7. Adapt your CC usage to the circumstances in particular events. For example, if you are playing Thresh and Lute Teemo is near your side of control, pull him so that it will take him longer to run away. Another good example for this is Battle Royale. Here, instead of pulling enemies towards you, you should do your best to knock them out of the circle so that they take a huge amount of damage. Champions who can do that really well include Zac and Azir. Tip number 8. If you need a big buff in overall champion power when playing fighters, but do not have 5000 gold to spend on separate items for each stat, go for Wriggle's Lantern. I know that it can literally be seen in the shop, but it is so underutilized that I wanted to talk separately about it. For just 1650 gold, it gives 25 AD, 20% attack speed, 12% lifesteal, and 10% spell vamp, as well as a rechargeable ward. That makes it 110% gold efficient, not counting the highly valuable spell vamp and the warding active. Tip number 9. When using the catapult of champions, you can launch yourself by clicking directly onto the minimap instead of having to manually navigate to the place you want to jump to and then launching yourself. And tip number 10. All starting items are on steroids, so don't miss out on them. That includes the support items, as they do not require as much commitment as they do on Summoner's Rift, so if you like supporting your team, you can definitely do it and have a lot of fun in this game mode too. Thanks for watching. If you found those tips useful, remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more content like this.